Okay, so, we like to take these deep dives into what's really buzzing online. And you sent over this pretty massive collection of searches all about Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, lots of chatter.
And it looks like people are really curious about what the future holds for him.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing everything from, straight up trade rumors
Mm-hmm.
to speculation about him maybe signing an extension to stay put.
Right. Tons of possibilities.
Exactly. So let's kind of break it all down. What can we actually learn about the NBA just from these searches?
Well, I think what's so cool about this is that these searches are kind of like a direct line into what fans are thinking,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
What are they hoping for? What are they worried about? And maybe even how they're trying to piece it all together.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, the first thing that jumps out to me is just the sheer volume of searches for Jimmy Butler trade. Like, it seems like everyone's expecting some kind of major move.
Yeah, it's definitely the hot topic right now.
And a lot of those searches also include the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, a lot of fans, it seems like, are dreaming of a scenario where Butler ends up, teaming up with Steph and Draymond.
Oh yeah. That'd
I
be
know.
that'd be something else.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can see why it's such an exciting idea.
Yeah.
But the reality is that a straight up trade to the Warriors, I mean, it's just incredibly unlikely.
Yeah.
The salary cap would make it almost impossible to pull off.
Okay, so maybe we can put that fantasy to rest for now.
Probably a good idea.
But what's interesting is I also see a ton of searches for Andrew Wiggins' trade. Is there any chance he could be a part of a Butler deal, even if it's not, directly with the Warriors?
That's where things get a little more interesting, because the NBA is all about finding these creative ways to make trades work.
Oh, for
Like a multi-team deal that involves Wiggins. It's not out of the question. It's kind of like a giant puzzle where teams have to make the salaries match up to make it all fit.
See, I've always wondered how those multi-team trades actually work. It just
Yeah.
seems so complicated.
It's definitely a lot of moving parts, but think of it this way, right? Let's say the Heat. They want to bring in Kevin Love. They want that veteran experience. But his salary is pretty high.
Right.
So they could bring in a third team, maybe a team that's looking to, shed some salary, and suddenly you've got a three-way deal where everybody gets something they need.
So it's like finding that, the right combination to make everyone happy.
Exactly.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's shift gears for a second and think about this from the Heat's perspective. I'm also seeing a bunch of searches for just Miami Heat trade and Heat roster.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think those searches tell us about what they might be looking for?
Well, I think one thing to consider is that you also shared some searches for Heat young core.
Oh, that's right.
And that's interesting because it suggests that there's some curiosity about how the Heat might build for the future.
Hmm.
Maybe trading for a young player with a lot of potential, like a Kobe White.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
more sense than going after, a veteran like Kevin Love.
Oh, that's a really good point. And I know, knowing you and your crazy deep knowledge of the Heat's cap situation,
Oh, come on.
you'll appreciate this, that a move for a younger player could give them a lot more flexibility down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Long-term thinking is key.
Yeah, exactly. But we can't forget about Butler himself. There are also tons of searches for Jimmy Butler contract and Jimmy Butler extension.
Right.
I mean, what are the chances he just decides to, stay in Miami?
Well, that's the big question mark in all of this, right?
Yeah.
If Butler decides to sign an extension, it totally changes the whole landscape. It could make him a much more appealing trade target down the line, or it could mean that he's, fully committed to Miami.
Wouldn't an extension actually make him more valuable? Like if they wanted to trade him later, I mean, wouldn't that give them more leverage?
That's a great question, and it shows how complicated these situations can be because a longer contract, it can give a team some stability, and it could even increase his trade value, but it also locks the team in, for a longer period.
Right.
So teams have to weigh those pros and cons very carefully.
So, I mean, where does this all leave us? We've got fans dreaming of a Warriors dynasty,
Mm-hmm.
the Heat, potentially rebuilding their roster, and this whole thing hinges on what Jimmy Butler decides to do with his contract. I mean, it's like a high-stakes poker game.
It is, and what I find most fascinating is how all of these searches, they really reflect this, this changing relationship between fans and the NBA.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, I think fans aren't just passively watching anymore. They're really actively engaged. They're trying to, decipher all the moves and predict what's going to happen next.
Yeah, no, it's like we're getting this, inside look into the collective mind of Heat Nation.
Yeah.
And the whole NBA fan base. Really, This is where it gets super interesting for me.
Definitely.
And even if this big blockbuster trade never actually happens,
Right.
these searches tell us that, fans are going to be watching every single move, every rumor, every, you know, little whisper of information with like bated breath.
Absolutely. And while, teams can't make decisions based solely on fan speculation,
Right.
it's clear that fan engagement really plays a big role in shaping the narrative around the league.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. But do you think there's any risk, that teams might become too reactive to fan pressure?
Yeah.
Making these short-sighted moves just to try and appease the fan base?
That's definitely something to think about for sure.
So for all of you listening out there, here's something else to consider. As the NBA keeps evolving, just how much influence will fans have on these team decisions in the future? That's something to really ponder. And until next time, keep those searches coming.
We'll be watching.
We'll see you then.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.